NFL draft and rookies. Hell yeah.
Podcast off the rails already.
But there is not a chance in hell Justin Fields is finishing in the top 10.
You know what, Mikey? Shut it.
He wants
Why
it.
not?
You don't want the smoke.
He's Calvin Johnson. He's Calvin
Oh,
Johnson.
good.
Oh,
God.
my
Yes,
God.
yes, and yes.
What are we gonna do with you?
It just, it adds a little extra flavor to the podcast.
I think you're disrespecting David Njoku.
Thank God
Yeah.
for Joe Flacco. That's all I can say. I'll help the owners. Don't draft Kadarius Toney.
I have to give the people what they want. I mean, come on. I'm going to milk it. I'm going to milk it for all it's worth.
I'll give you something to milk.
Let's rock and roll.
All right. 12 teams, 15 rounds. We had some oohs, we had some ahs, and we had some what the Fs. But what a fun night we had at the live MHA draft this past Sunday night. We're here to talk all about it on today's podcast. Eric Lansing, Mikey Renault, and of course,
The champ is here.
Todd Diamond is here as well. 2 days away from the first NFL game of the new season. Chiefs and Ravens. Football's here. We're finally in it. How excited are we, Todd?
I'm ready for football. I'm ready. I'm ready for NFL football. Obviously I got my college football. That's helping, but I'm ready. I'm ready for the NFL season to start. We've been talking about it for 3 months now. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready to see it happen.
What about you, Miguel? How you feeling?
I feel good. Ready to get out there and, take down the champ.
Bring
Take
it on.
down that champ. That's everybody's goal this year, is to not only win the championship, but to take him down as well. So that's pretty much what we're going to do. It's the draft recap. So, we'll look back at the draft, talk about the first round. We'll talk about some surprises, some of our favorite picks, our least favorite picks. We'll talk about which owner we feel like had the best draft, and we'll talk about our Super Bowl picks. So let's just get into it right away. And actually, we'll start off. How about with a little bit of news first? We have some notes.
I don't understand what the news is. It's just like, hey, here's a bunch of you can't fix that happened that was horrible.
Just a few notes here. Brandon Ayuk, we all know by now, but we didn't have it on the last podcast. But Ayuk is signed with the 49ers. We all guessed he would, and there he is. Speaking of getting paid, Trent Williams, we were talking about it last night. We were wondering if that was ever going to happen. Obviously, more about fantasy-wise for protecting Brock Purdy and, of course, giving some space open there for Mr. Christian McCaffrey. So anybody that has a 49er, this is good news for you. Not good news for me. Jets pass rusher Hassan Reddick is still holding out. So as someone who has the Jets defense, that's something I'll have to keep an eye on. What I saw today, Lions running back Jahmyr Gibbs is feeling 98 to 100% heading into week 1. I don't know how that works, where you're feeling 98%, 99%, and 100% all at the same time. That seems odd, but okay. Does that bother you, Todd, that he's feeling 98% sometimes and 100% some other times?
Hey, as long as he's on that field and producing, I don't care what percentage he's at. If 98, if he's at 98%, good enough for me. That's
all right. You feel good, Jahmyr Gibbs. Well, let's get into I didn't see any other news that was huge. Did I miss anything, gentlemen?
No, I don't think so. That's pretty much it.
I didn't see any. I have here any Jamar Chase updates? Question mark. Not really. He's with the team, but he didn't practice on Monday. I don't know if he practiced today. I didn't see that anywhere in the news world. So Jamar Chase with the team, but not playing yet. Doesn't mean he's not going to play this weekend, but keep an eye on it, and especially Mr. Who's got him here? Miles' team. All right. Well, let's get into that first round, and maybe that's the first thing we talk about. But if anything, I'll start with Mikey. What stood out to you about the first round?
Honestly, I think I had a gut feeling that Allen may be the one to take the quarterback in the first round. I know we talked about, well, is it going to happen? It usually does at some point, and then that happened. I think other than that, it went pretty normal, unless you guys think that maybe I kind of went off the board taking Saquon instead of like a Jefferson or a Chase.
Yeah, that was my kind of thought. Was Barkley drafted too soon? And not really. I mean, you're trying to find. I mean, we have a lot of us are dealing with lack of depth at running back, and you wanted to grab one of the top ones, and I put him in that top class. I like Jonathan Taylor better than Barkley, and so really the running backs that went after him were Taylor. Then Gibbs, Kamara, and then Henry back to you. So I don't think that's such a reach either. Todd, anything else stand out to you about the first round?
No, not really. Not
Yeah.
really. I mean, it
Chalk,
was
really.
yeah. It you know, I think if anything, in previous years we'd say, well, drafting a quarterback in the first round, but it's Patrick Mahomes, and he puts up 50, 60 points, a week. So yeah, there wasn't really anything that was like, oh wow, that stood out to me that it was like, well, why you draft? No, it was pretty much, you said, chalk all the way across, I believe.
If I don't know if Chase fell because of all the news that's going on, but let's say everything becomes hunky dory. I I don't think he's going to get the contract, but if something happens where he's happy and yada yada, is that a steal? Kind of, he was at the 10th overall pick. I mean, a lot of places had him going in the top 6, but obviously with all the uncertainty, then maybe that pushed him down a little bit. Do we feel like that could be a steal if everything? I mean, Mikey, you had Burrow as one of your top quarterbacks, if not the top quarterback. I mean, is that drop going to be something that could pan out for Miles?
I mean, it definitely could. I mean, you knew that I was a Jefferson over Chase guy anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a possibility that it could be a steal. Um, yeah, you just never know. I think the contract situation. I mean, you would have to ask Aaron because he was the one making decision on receiver
True.
at that point. But I wonder if it did play a factor.
I know he was talking about maybe Jonathan Taylor, but I don't know if Jefferson or Chase was on it. But I know Taylor or Jefferson was, I think, on his mind. But yeah, so not the wildest first round we've ever had, but Patrick Mahomes did push some people down. Um, I'll ask you guys this. I'll let Todd go first. Any like big picture stuff that stood out to you, whether had something to do with like people waited on, did a good, I don't want to say good job. I mean, maybe you didn't want to wait on quarterback, but did people wait on quarterbacks? Did the tight ends go too late? I don't know whether it's wide receivers, running backs. There was plenty to go around, or wasn't enough to go around. Todd, any big picture stuff that kind of stood out to you?
Well, I was saying, I don't know, I say it every single year when we do the running back show.
Don't you say it?
Uh,
Don't you say it?
I feel like there's just not enough running backs. There's just not enough good quality running backs, and if you have to go. Now, granted, since we decreased our bench, the waiver wire won't look like a wasteland war zone. So maybe you can find like a running back, that if a running back gets hurt or something, or you can find like a second string or third string running back or another rookie that pops up throughout the season. But I just felt like I understand wide receivers, do score a lot of points. I get that. I'm not denying that, but I just feel like, I'd rather just stock up on running backs.
I'll let you answer that question too, Miguel, in terms of big picture. But I want to ask you first: was there a lack of running backs because Aaron went running back 6 straight rounds? Did that like screw everybody's thought process and trying to get depth at running back?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, they had
Oh
chances
yes,
too.
it did. Come on,
No,
6
well,
rounds of running backs in a row.
yeah, but when you think about it, like, I mean, 6 rounds, that's quite a bit of players, in 6 rounds. People could have drafted depth at running back, but that's not what actually happened. People were more worried about, receivers, I feel like, than they were running backs. And that's why the depth at receiver went dry faster to me than it did at running back.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like teams have better wide receiver depth just, going through. And I understand why Aaron did it. I'm not bad mouthing Aaron at all because he went 3 wide receivers and a quarterback reserves 4 picks, and he wanted to make sure that he stocked up on it, and while the rest of us didn't. But I mean, you just see everybody's third, fourth wide receivers, and are much better than their third, fourth. I mean, you talk about even Kilgore, who his second running back came in the 7th round and waited, and that's Tony Pollard. Not that I hate Tony Pollard, but is he a number 2? You hope not.
No, absolutely not.
But Mikey, what was your big picture thing? You see anything or notice anything?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like people waited at tight end. That was like a big thing.
Yeah, that was my answer too.
Yeah, I mean, you saw somebody like Jake Ferguson, who was very high thought of, and he didn't even go until round 10. So, I mean, Kyle Pitts was a guy I was on. He went in round 11.
Yeah.
So,
for all of us David Njoku guys, 12th round. Has him as the top 10 guy. So I think you're right. I thought Laporta would go first, and then Kelsey, then maybe Andrews would kind of go. I mean, he usually goes in that third or fourth round, depending on. But they definitely went down, and I don't know if that is more of people understanding that they can wait and get those guys, because we all said it. I felt that when we were talking about tight ends that they were a deep position, and you could wait and still get production. Because I know Mikey was not a big Laporta guy. So that didn't, there was no rush. I was high on him, but there was no rush to get him, because I maybe people didn't feel like he could do it again. Because I feel like if you put the same numbers up he did last year, he deserves to be more or drafted higher, but maybe people didn't believe that. And so, but I mean, it's cool. I like it. I feel like it kind of worked with QBs a little bit. I mean, we saw a couple go in the first 3 rounds, but I felt like there was a lot of good quarterbacks, and we'll talk more about other quarterbacks as we go along through this. But yeah, those were the things I kind of talked about. I guess we can start talking about any surprises in the draft. We'll let Mikey go first. What surprised you, good or bad?
It surprised me that Allen took so many Chiefs players. Like, I mean, Mahomes and Kelsey, yes, I get it. But then to pair them with Worthy and with Marquise Brown, and he's got, I don't know, it just seems like, and then to have the 49ers with Debo and Jawan Jennings and their defense, like it just seems like too much out of 2 teams.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it before, Mikey, where when you look at the guys you're drafting, you're looking at, well, what offense do they play for, right? And so if they're going to score the most points, you want guys from those teams because they're going to have more opportunities. But yeah, it's also kind of, we were joking about it during the draft, is because like most of his guys were in week 6. So who gets to play Allen in week 6? So you don't want to. I don't draft where I look at my bye weeks and I'll figure that out. I just want good players on my team, because even if they're all in the same bye week, it's just 1 week. But yeah, I mean that's a lot for sure, and especially in a situation where in years past, Mahomes, I mean, outside of Tyreek Hill, did he have, especially after Tyreek Hill, who was their number 1 guy over the next couple of years, right? There was never really 1 or 2 that you could rely on. And it's always been kind of Kelsey, and maybe the running backs caught some balls out of the backfield, and maybe Juju once in a while. It just wasn't anything. So I think there's a lot more upside, obviously, with the guys they brought in this year. So, but yeah, that was definitely something we talked about the draft. Todd, any surprises, good or bad, from you?
It's a little bit of a head scratcher, but like I looked at G's team and I was like, his first, like Tyreek Hill, Pacheco, Adams, Metcalf, and Jackson. I'm like, wow, like that's like, and then it kind of, I don't know, it fell off a little bit. So I was like, wow, geez, that's really, really putting a good team together so far. And then I was like, kind of teetered off a little bit there. I mean, you got Kittle mixed in there a little bit, but that's my only thing. I was just like, wow,
Aren't you the Jonathan Brooks guy though?
Yeah, but not Jonathan Brooks in the 6th round. No, that's. I mean, obviously, I know he's going to be the starter, but yeah, not in the 6th round. Not in the 6th round. I mean, I was a big Jonathan Brooks guy, but not in the 6th round. Not in the 6th round. I mean, he could have you some degree could have waited on. You could have waited on Jonathan Brooks and got him like in the 8th round, 8th or 9th round, and waited. But no,
I
it's just
feel like Todd is just still harboring like hate for Calvin Ridley from 2 years ago.
Yeah, I like Calvin Ridley in the 7th round.
well, you know me. I'm loyal, and also if you cross the line,
Still feels the burn.
you're done. You're done. You're
All right.
done. You're done.
Looking over Dylan's team, he's on board with the Chicago wide receivers, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Romo Dunze. So I'm assuming he figures that Caleb Williams is going to throw for 40 touchdown passes this year. That's exciting.
Yeah, that's it.
Or he's hoping one of them pops, and he wants to make sure he has the one that pops.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good point.
I told you guys at the draft, man. Dylan's team is gonna break the scoreboard on some weeks. Like, I don't want to be playing him on the week where like he has Achan, Harrison, Bijan, Tank Dell, DJ Moore all go off at the same time, because those are guys that the range of possibilities, like where those guys on any given day could put up like a 30 spot.
Yeah, it's going to be consistency with his team.
Yeah.
You're right. You're 100%. Anything else, or should we move on to our favorite picks of the draft? Anybody else notice any surprises or have any surprises?
No, I don't.
Okay. That's fine. And I mean, it kind of coincides with our favorite picks and least favorite picks. So we'll just move on to that. So, Todd, give me one of your favorite picks of the draft.
I'm gonna go with, because I was really, I was high on him, but Marvin Harrison Jr. In the 3rd round. I mean, obviously, we all thought, oh, he's who's gonna draft him in in the 2nd or 1st round? Who's gonna pull that trigger? And I mean, I was one of those people that might have done that, but I like that pick, getting him in the 3rd round, because obviously I think what he's going to do this season for the Cardinals and so forth. So that was my favorite pick.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of things got pushed down because of the Mahomes and Kelsey stuff, and so that may have helped leak it into the 3rd. But still, pretty amazing considering the hype that comes behind him. I don't know if my rant on the podcast pushed it down at all, but that's just my ego talking. Mikey, what about you? You have a favorite pick of the draft, or one of, or a couple? What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked your pick of Olave, and that was somebody that I had passed on, like, I think 4th round, and especially like middle of round 4 for him.
Yeah,
I think is a pretty good value. It was definitely somebody I was considering at that point in round 4. I just felt like I needed, in a quarterback league, I needed my quarterback, but I thought that was really good value.
Yeah, it was definitely when it was coming down and getting closer. I mean, you always have a couple guys because I mean, I was thinking I should probably go wide receiver, but it just depends on the running back. I think it came down to Kenny Walker or Chris Olave, and then hopefully a wide receiver would come down, and he did because I liked Rashee Rice too, so I wouldn't be totally upset if he was my 2nd wide receiver. But Olave who'd been going in the 2nd round in a lot of drafts, and even if he got pushed down because of Mahomes or Kelsey or whatever, 3rd round still should be where he's going. And he's the opposite of what we talk about in terms of, we want a guy in a good offense. Well, New Orleans is not the best offense in the world, but he still put up solid numbers, and they brought in some new coordinators to try to change things up. But yeah, definitely a good value there. Someone who I like and was even further down. I mean, I'm excited about the Seattle offense. So Jackson Smith and Jigba in the 9th round, I feel pretty excited about, just because Lockett's hurt already, and who knows if he's going to be able to sustain it. But they're going to run a lot more 3 wide receivers in that system, And I think he's a guy that could break out and provide incredible value, especially someone in the 9th round. Eaton, who's that, Quayne? He picked Zay Flowers and McLaurin. If everything works out, Smith and Jigba could be better than both of those guys. So he may end up in his flex position before the season's even over. Any other picks that you guys liked? Todd?
I actually like your pick of Tajay Spears because I liked him more than Tony Pollard. So in the 8th round, that one was pretty good. I like that pick. There's one more, and I liked in the 10th round. Excuse me, DeAndre Hopkins. It's kind of obviously he's gonna be hurt for a little bit, but it's kind of a lottery ticket there because that's gonna be him and Levis definitely had a good rapport, so I like that pick as well too.
What about you, Miguel? Anyone else?
Yeah, I think I had maybe mentioned when we were doing our running backs, or maybe I didn't, but that I really like Chase Brown.
Yeah, you've mentioned it. Or you may have mentioned it off air because we were going to talk about like our sleepers or whatever, but you may have mentioned him in the sleepers podcast. I can't recall.
Yeah,
Anyway,
Kevin got him in the 9th round, and I liked him better than a lot of the running backs that went in front of him. Like, I liked him better than Eckler. I liked him better than Jalen Warren. I liked him better than Jaleel McLaughlin. Gus Edwards, I had him above him. Like, I like his upside better than I like Zach Moss on his own team. Miles Sanders, that's just garbage. But yeah, so I think that one has a real chance of breaking for Kevin.
Chase Brown always. I don't know what to think. I'm more of a Zach Moss guy myself. But
you're a safety.
Yeah, I've always been a safety guy. Yeah, I guess that's true. I liked your Dalton Kincaid just because I felt like I could have waited one more round and got that running back, and that just because like that would have been it was Dalton Montgomery, or David Montgomery was someone was like, oh, maybe I'll take him at this point in the 6th round. You ended up taking him, and I went with tight end because I didn't really like the running backs after that, and I could have felt a lot better in my team. Maybe I picked David Montgomery. Mark Andrews comes back. I get Mark Andrews. Obviously, the quarterback situation, there's a lot of other quarterbacks that went after Jared Goff in that 7th round, but I don't hate that David Montgomery. I know he's your 4th running back, but that's pretty good depth. I don't want to say I'm a big Montgomery fan, but I believe he's better than my Tajay Spears, number 3 running back for sure. Let's talk about guys we did not like, least favorite picks. I'll let Mikey go first this time.
All right, number 1, and it feels so like I didn't even think about this, but Miles Sanders, he's the worst pick of the draft, 100%. There is no second place. This one is not. I am so confident this one is not going to come back to bite me in the ass. But yeah, Miles Sanders, worst pick in the draft. Alan, come on, man.
Now, Mikey, you've always kind of been a Miles Sanders hater. Are you being a little harsh, or is your anger, your vision just clouded?
Well, we could do a poll with the league.
No.
No.
No. I think you'd probably be right. Yeah, I don't know if this was. He's number 2 on the depth chart right now. But once Brooks comes in, then he'll move down to number 3, and you always hope. Especially when you're later in the draft, you're always looking for those guys, but. The last running back that went off the board was Bucky Irving by me, and I'd still take him over Sanders back in the 7th round. Maybe he knows something we don't. It was a few years ago where he had 1,000 yards and looked like a fantasy-worthy player, but it's been a few years as well. Todd, any picks that stand out that you weren't very fond of?
I don't know, and we'll see if maybe he'll put up points. But Gabe Davis, I saw last year, and he put up 0 points. Like, come on, like that's just the player puts up 0 points. He's got to go.
Yeah, but that's 12th round though. It's not like you picked him in the top 10 rounds. 12 is you're just reaching for folks at this point.
Yeah, but I'd rather
wide receivers that went around him were like Khalil Shakur and Josh Palmer and Jamison Williams are all reaches. You hope they pass, and you hope that the Jaguars, who paid him a ton of money to come over, utilize him. But it's 12th round. I can see what you're saying. There's moments. I mean, he's ever since that playoff game, he has enamored us with that ability to do that in one of the biggest games of the year. But then just has these days where he disappears. He has a nose for the end zone, but is it enough? I see what you're saying, but 12th round, I wouldn't be crapping on it too much, I guess.
Yeah, that was only. That,
I mean, do we want to talk about your Alvin Kamara pick?
First of all,
I know
Yahoo,
Mikey might not agree. I know he could be the MVP, but I liked a lot more running backs. I felt like you could have waited. I don't know, because Mikey liked him, and we talked about this after the fact, but if you like him, you like him. You have to wait a long time to get him again. But there are so many other better running backs, in my opinion. Like 5, everybody in that first round, I liked better. Everybody in the second round, I liked better. But that's me.
Yeah, but to your point, I mean, it's a long time, and I just don't think Kamara would have. I just don't think Kamara would have come back to me, on the turnaround. I just don't think he would. Because I mean, whether it would be, because obviously Mikey liked him. We can ask. I guess you can ask us now.
Mikey, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, so if it's Alvin Kamara or Josh Jacobs, who are you taking?
I had Kamara above, so I would take Kamara.
Okay, all right, that's fair enough. But golly, I mean, I don't know. We all have our thoughts on what we think about running backs, or any position for that matter. One I'll jump out as, I don't hate Mike Evans, but in the second round with the talent that goes after him, even in the running back, I mean, he wanted a wide receiver, that's fine, but I felt like there was better. But Kevin's also a Tampa Bay guy, and he was pretty incredible last year, and he has the same quarterback coming back. So there's a lot of consistency coming back for Tampa and Mike Evans. I don't know. It's like the upside better than the other wide receivers. But it's not terrible either. And you look at his team, it's like, Evans. He 70 catches, 10 touchdowns. Fine. That's fine. Anybody else, any least favorite picks, gentlemen?
Yeah, I mean, I go to G's team, and it's just because of the league that we're in. I don't love him taking Lamar Jackson in round 5 over a CJ Stroud or a Jordan Love or even Kyler Murray or Goff. And this is just me personally. Like, I took Cousins way later. I would rather have Cousins than Lamar Jackson as a starting quarterback on my team. That's just a personal opinion on my part. Especially with Derrick Henry there now, too. Just not a fan of Lamar Jackson in this league.
Yeah, and that makes sense because it's heavy completions, and Lamar Jackson has to be otherworldly in his rushing ability to really pay off for a high quarterback pick. He's got to rush for like 1,200 yards and score 10 touchdowns, and then even then be average at quarterback with 3,500 pass yards and 25 touchdowns. And maybe that gets you into the top 5. And so I can understand that. But, I mean, there is an incredible upside for Lamar, but everything has to go right. And his rushing touchdowns will go down because Derrick Henry, they brought him in for a reason because they want Lamar Action Jackson to be standing when he gets to playoff time because that's their bigger aspirations is defense, running the ball, Lamar Jackson making plays, probably third on that list I just gave you, and then getting to the playoffs. So I could see that for sure. All right, so what do I have next on the list here? I said, give me a pick from rounds 11 to 15 and pick a player that you think can make a difference. Now, I'm going to add something here because Kyle Pitts is by far the outlier in it, so you can't use Kyle Pitts.
Okay.
Why not?
Because that's an easy pick, man. That is the low-hanging fruit. Because, I mean, that is our answer. So I want you to give me someone outside of Kyle Pitts. So from 11th to 15th, Mikey, give me someone you think that can make a difference.
Okay, and this is just totally based on the fact that if he stays healthy, the Mike Williams pick by Kevin, which I think was in round 13.
Correct.
With Aaron Rodgers Rodgers is a guy that loves to throw like the end zone fade or that like little back shoulder throw, and a big giant receiver like Mike Williams is perfect for that. It's just all relying on him staying healthy, but yeah, I think that could be a potential sleeper in the late rounds.
Definitely a lottery pick for sure. Todd, what about you?
I'm gonna say from your team, Jamison Williams. Um, Obviously, what he did with his flashes of what he did last year. Um, obviously was hurt for a little bit, suspended, whatever the case may be. But I think he might be, he might be that third weapon or for, on that Lions offense because they have a lot of weapons on that team. I'm hoping it's all Jahmyr Gibbs all day, every day. Gets all the points. But that Jamison Williams, I like that pick. I think he could definitely, he could be he could be a big part of that team and for your team.
I agree. And that's why I drafted him. And that's why I paid for him in our other auction league that I do with Miguel and Joe Vaccarelli, because I think they're super, super big upside for a guy. I'll bring up another wide receiver. How about Josh Palmer, who went in the 12th round? I went and looked at the Chargers depth chart today, and guess who's number one? It's not Quentin Johnston. It's not Lad McConkey. It's not DJ Chark. It's Josh Palmer. So are we expecting big numbers? No, but if he's the number one guy and that's who Herbert has his connection with and he's played with him for a couple of years, then 70 catches, 700 yards, 5-6 touchdowns. That's pretty good value from guy way, way down in the bottom of the draft. And, we're all looking for anything in terms of depth. And, he's got the opportunity. And if Herbert is going to be efficient, maybe his numbers go higher than that. But, I think that's a good one. Anything else before we move on? Any other picks in the rounds later on that intrigue you? I like Cole Kmet. I liked him as a possible sleeper tight end.
Yeah, I'm also in on Khalil Herbert just because every time that they actually let him, play, he produces. DeAndre Swift, I don't consider him to be a bell cow, and he's kind of slight of frame too. So, and we know he's had problems with injuries in the past. So I think that's a pretty good handcuff.
I would usually say, well, yeah, and Khalil Herbert's had a great preseason. He had that last year too and didn't do much with it, but that's just because he was hurt a lot of the year too. All right, so here's your chance to talk about your team. I'll let Todd go first, but Todd, if you take 10 minutes and talk about every single pick, I'm going to reach across his microphone and rip out your throat. How about that? Is that too much? Is that too scary?
I don't know. I'm still a champ. It's still a champ.
Yeah, still the champ. What do you think about your team?
All right. Well, first of all, I'm going to say off the Yahoo Sports can go F itself. Oh my God. An F? I got some effigies for Yahoo Sports. It just means I'm going to win the championship. Okay. All right. So, first and foremost, obviously at the beginning, when we started doing our podcast in the summertime, I was trying to figure out a little bit, okay, what players I want to draft. And obviously, this, when I say if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I said I wanted Jahmyr Gibbs and Alvin Kamara. Those were going to be my two picks. And then, again, in the wide receivers, I was high on Stephon Diggs because I said the fact the Texans went out and traded for him because they wanted really, and I know Nico Collins did what he did last year, and that's all fine and dandy. But they brought Stephon Diggs in for a reason, and he's I think he's going to ball out this year as well too. And getting Ayuk, again, we didn't know what the contract situation, so really my first four picks, I'm very, very happy. That I got that I got the players. I got those four players, and probably the only thing, I'll end this with my team. With this is, obviously I said I wanted to draft Jordan Love, because I was really high on him, and kind of to take a little page from Mikey's book, the way the board was going or the way my mindset was at the time, like, you know what? Zamir White, just better option there for me. I felt comfortable. And then 2 rounds later, I went and got the quarterback that shocked the world last year, shocked fantasy and reality, and Brock Purdy. And now obviously with the news with Trent Williams, signed and all ready to go, that helps protect his blind side. So I'm very happy with my team. I think I've got players that can put up a lot of points each and every week, and so forth. So I'm giddy.
Todd is giddy. He is excited. He's ready to go. The champ has his team that he's going to try to defend his title. What about you, Miguel? You went running back heavy in those first 3 rounds. You still feel pretty good about that?
I do. I mean, it makes it easy for me to make one of the things I've always hated is like having to make decisions at flex. And I don't feel like I have to do that now. It's just kind of set in stone. I just go with the 3 running backs and I'm good to go. And honestly, I feel like if I can hit on J.K. Dobbins, I've got, you know, a set of 5 running backs that no one else can touch. Like it's a pretty good set that I've got. Obviously for me, receiver depth is a problem. I don't really have that, number one guy, but I've got, guys that have potential upside, and I like the guys that I did take. We'll see where it takes me. Um, Kincaid, I was ecstatic about. I feel like he can be a tight end that in a PPR league has a legit chance to kind of hit like 80 to 90 catches if things go right. And so, yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good about my team. We'll see what happens, but you know, it's gonna a lot of it's gonna rely on whether or not Malik Neighbors is the real deal, like I think he is.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I like Dalton Kincaid, especially. I mean, if there were the Vegas odds, or he's going to be the number 1 option for Josh Allen, and a lot of people still love Josh Allen and the numbers he can put up. He's going to benefit the most, I believe. So I agree with you. Anything you would do differently, looking back, real quick?
I mean, the one thing that I guess I would mention, and I think I mentioned it on Sunday, was that if I knew that I would get Montgomery where I got him, in round 6, that there's a possibility I might have gone, Cooper Cup instead of Jacobs in the 3rd round.
Okay.
Because then I could still have, Montgomery as a flex, and then I would have had Cup and Neighbors, and to me, maybe that would have worked out a little bit better.
Yeah, I would feel Neighbors is probably better as a number 2 wide receiver. I mean, I'm still not super high on him, but yeah, it would make me breathe easier. But I mean, to still have Barkley, Henry, and Jacobs running out against. I mean, I'm playing you this week, so I'm looking right at it, and you're just like, whoa, that's heavy. So, yeah, no, I like your team as well. Outside of the lack of a number 1 wide receiver. Just quickly going over mine, and you guys heard this already, but for those who haven't, I mean, I like my starting lineup for sure. If my goal was to try to not pick a quarterback and a tight end in the first 5, I wanted to have my slots between wide receiver and running back figured out. Just like Mike, I didn't want to worry about my flex. I wanted to just go in there, and I felt good. I could wait on tight ends. I probably could have waited around on both of them. I would love to have David Montgomery and then Andrews and Goff if that would have been the case. I mean, who knows how it plays out, but I would prefer that. Now, like I could have waited longer and try to get that depth at running backs. I don't feel like I have that depth because I feel like, well, once the starting lineup is in there, great. But injuries happen. Something's going to happen to somebody, and I'm going to have to figure out, well, is Tajay Spears that gut running back that's going to come in? Blake Corum? Is it someone off the waiver wire that's going to jump out of nowhere like Kyron Williams? So we'll wait to see on that. But I love Goff at that spot. He was a top 5 guy last year. Andrews is, if he's healthy, he's great. I just need him to be healthy because he is fantastic. And I'd love to have him. We'll see what happens like against Mike on Thursday night. That should be fun. But I mean, we mentioned Olave value is great. I wanted 2 running backs after Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I'm excited. And we'll see what Blake Corum does too. If he ends up taking some snaps from Kyron or something happens to Kyron, I think Blake's just going to slip right in. So I'm super excited about that. So what do you guys feel outside of yourself? Which owner you felt had the best team? We'll let Mikey go first.
All right. Well, I always like Joe's team,
Yeah, Joe always does a good job for sure.
but
Except his second running back is a little, whew, but he's not the worst second running back.
I'm actually gonna give it to Pollen.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he had the first pick, so that was the obvious place that he was gonna go. But like, I really like his receiver room. You know, he's got 5 pretty decent, like, you know, Drake London, Devonta Smith, Kirk, Godwin, and Addison. That's pretty, you know, damn good
Mm-hmm.
for a receiver room. I really did like that. You know, he's got DeAndre Swift as a second running back, but when it's a second running back to Christian McCaffrey, I mean, it's
McCaffrey gets
different.
20 and then Swift gets 10.
Todd
That's still
knows.
good.
Todd knows that you don't necessarily have to have like once you got McCaffrey counts as like 1.5.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he counts as a running back and a wide receiver. So yeah, you're getting double points there.
and then you know I'm a guy that was down on Josh Allen for this year, but I mean he's still a good quarterback. And if it doesn't work out, I was a guy that was high on Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
So there's that, and he got Kyle Pitts so late.
There's the answer. Yeah,
And
Kyle
that-
Pitts was great.
And
Great
that was
pick.
the other thing, man, because like as much I love Kincaid, like had I, you know, I could have gotten Pitts in the 11th round. I mean, it changes a lot of things for me too. So
You could have had Miles Sanders.
yeah. Well,
Oh man. Okay, Todd, who was your favorite team outside of yourself?
I mean, my team is just awesome. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, sure.
I'm gonna go with Dylan's team. Bijan Robinson, Achan, Marvin Harrison. Those first 3 phenomenal. Getting Jordan Love. I mean, obviously, if he can do what he can do, projected, and you know his, you know, obviously trying to going all in on the Bears. Wide receiver core. I mean, obviously Caleb Williams, you know, looks like the real deal. So good on him for that. So I liked Dylan's team. I think the Marvin Harrison, that pick was, I think we said it in, you know, 2 segments ago, but you know, that's one of my favorite picks. So I think that one was that was a good pick that makes his team really good.
And I'm gonna say Quayne. I thought Quayne did a good job. He waited on quarterback and still got Kyler Murray, a guy that I was high on. And then of course to get CeeDee Lamb is going to be incredible, especially with no contract issues. Nico Collins. I thought Travis Etienne falling to him in that second round was huge, and then to get an awesome number 2 and Kenneth Walker. And Trey McBride, who had my top 3 at tight end, is great. So I thought he did really well, and he's got some good depth. Of course, I like the JSN pick that we talked about. So yeah, really good job by Quayne. Honestly, there's a lot of, I wouldn't call it parody. I don't know if that's the right word, but everybody did a really good job and really picking out and drafting their teams this year. So as we come down to the end of the draft here, once I get my notes up and rolling, just quick week 1 preview, because this is what we're going to talk about next week. Of course, the champ is going to take on Kilgore Trout, which is a rematch of last year's championship match. Myself will take on the Hot Tamales. Lion Rip will take on NWA. Chad Powers Fan Club will take on the Gonzo Cats. Cooper's Cousins going to take on Notorious CUP. And Eaton W's will be battling the Belt Sanders. All right, gentlemen, before we get out of here, I asked you to give me your Super Bowl pick. So we'll start with Todd. Let me know who you picked and why.
All right, it's gonna be the Broncos. No, just kidding.
You had me for a second. That was pretty good. You had me for a second.
I know. I mean, obviously, as Broncos fans, we all want that. We want to go back to those. We want to go back to those glory years. Those were great. But all seriousness, I'm going with the Texans and the Lions for the Super Bowl, and I think obviously the Texans kind of, you know, really shocked the world last year a little bit, and now second year now, and the Texans have a lot more weapons now. And I think CJ Stroud leads them to the Super Bowl against the Lions, and your Super Bowl champs will be the Houston Texans.
All right. Drinking the CJ Stroud juice in year 2. What about you, Miguel? What did you go with?
So, in the AFC, I like Kansas City coming out of there. NFC, I kind of went off the board, and I'm going back to a repeat of my NFC pick from last year. Everybody is down on the Dallas Cowboys, with good reason, because they have not proven it in the postseason. But I think this is the year, in a weird year, that they somehow get over that hump, get to the Super Bowl, and lose as the Chiefs complete the three-peat.
Mikey's saying they're going to do the three-peat, huh?
Yep.
Right.
I don't want it to happen, but I think it
Yeah.
I think it's going to.
No, nobody wants it to happen.
Just for the record, Mikey does have Dak Prescott in both of his fantasy leagues here this season. But I don't hate the pick either. I went mostly chalk. I had San Francisco versus Detroit in the NFC Championship game, Kansas City versus Baltimore. I think that's the exact championship games from last year, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
And then Kansas City versus Detroit in the Super Bowl. And I actually picked up Detroit to win it because it's so hard to three-peat. So I'm going to go against the miracle. I'm going to go with the odds and what the numbers say. I say Detroit wins it all. So there you go. We all have 3 different Super Bowl champion picks. But we're going to see Kansas City and Baltimore, my AFC championship, on Thursday night. Football is here, gentlemen. We're excited. I hope everybody has a fun season. I'm not going to wish you all the best because I want to win. Dag nabbit. It's been a minute. So
Eric wants to win, damn it.
Eric wants to win. I want to take down the champ. Well,
Let's go.
thanks for coming on, gentlemen. Always fun. Next week, we'll, of course, talk about how week 1 went because there's always something that takes place. Injuries. Some guy pops out of nowhere. Should be a fun 2024 season. For Mikey Renault, Todd Diamond, I'm Eric Lansing. We'll see you next time on the MHA podcast.
Here we go.